Hello, hello, good morning. I'm following through with my promise so far to jump on live every single day. I'm gonna wait until some peeps get on. It's Sunday morning, you never know. Is everyone at church? I don't know. Hi, Megan. Long time no see, love. Hello, Missy. Good morning from New York City. Three people are on. Scott Lumley. Hello, Scott. Hello, Paul. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. All right. Whenever I do this, by the way, I'm like seeing who's on. I can see everybody. Hi. Okay. All right. So, a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Let me just start with a story, I guess. Before my dad died, I was a big, huge asshole. I was an asshole, and I did a lot of, I saw a lot of people through this vision of what I expected of them and how they were supposed to show up for me, and if they didn't live within those expectations of how they were supposed to show up in my life, I would be pissed. And probably the biggest one was my brother. And, you know, after my dad died, there was a moment, and I hope my brother doesn't mind me sharing this, but after my dad died, we were at his memorial service about a month later, and my brother and I were still really volatile at that time. It was a mess. It was a freaking mess. And, I was pissed at him big time, but, we were at the memorial service after party for my dad. And I saw my brother outside, and he was sitting by himself, and he was sobbing. And this is the first time I've ever seen him vulnerable, really, ever. And I think it was my aunt. It might have been my Aunt Tammy. She might be on. Let me see. Hi, Adrian. Someone said to me, you need to go talk to your brother. So I went out there and I talked to him, and turns out he and my dad had a massive fight right before my dad died. And I didn't know anything about this. Well, actually, my dad had told me that, like, your brother's being an asshole. So I knew a little bit about it before my dad died, and my dad died so suddenly that none of us expected it. Obviously, my brother didn't expect it, and my brother and my dad got in a huge fight, and he left the house and never saw my dad again. And my brother was sobbing and was like, I was such a dick. Like, I was just an asshole to dad. And, you know, the first thought that occurred to me is like, Dad doesn't care. Dad doesn't care at the end of the day, you know? Like, he loves you, and all of the shit that happened in his human existence no longer matters, you know? And I think a lot of times, just to jump, like we hold on to these things that are really just expectations that weren't met by people, which is no way to see people in general. Our expectations forced on them, which causes us and them suffering. Let me see if I can regain the thought. I haven't had any coffee. I did have some cacao, but but yeah, this idea that all of this stuff really matters, when at the end of the day we're all humans and we all make mistakes. And, you know, how can we soften our expectations of people, and soften our hearts when people hurt us and don't show up the way that we want them to show up for us? This shows up in my life a lot, and it's been my practice, really, because that moment with my brother, just me opening up and zooming out enough to drop our shit between us, which was really a lot of me, actually. Like, my brother, I feel really bad. I want to, like, I've apologized to him before, and I'm very sorry, but I always saw my brother, and I think it was just because of our age difference, like this 4-year age gap, where I was basically an only child for a really long time. And when he came onto this planet, he ruined everything for me. And being like the firstborn, a Leo, like just all of this stuff. And then my brother comes and I'm just like, who is this little asshole who like showed up and whatever. And that was probably how I approached our relationship my entire life up until he had his first kid, which was not too long after my dad died. But yeah, just being able to zoom out and see my brother in pain was so valuable to me, because it no longer mattered the shit between us when I saw him through these eyes of compassion. And holy shit, this is someone who's in enormous amounts of pain, and none of this other stuff that I've held against him matters at this point. It doesn't matter anymore. And really, I've got to say, at the end of the day, the stuff that we can't take with us when we die and when we leave this freaking planet, like, it's not important. It's not important to, it's just not important. Let me see if I can. Oh, Lee, if you have a specific circumstance, Lee, and you want to share it, we can work through it together. So, Course in Miracles. Let me just talk Course in Miracles, because I am a huge Course in Miracles person, and, yoga and Course in Miracles and spirituality and zooming out is my favorite thing. So, Course in Miracles basically says, and I've said this before, probably back in like February, March-ish, but basically when we're born, we start to develop these lenses through which we see the world, and these lenses are our judgments. So here we are, like maybe 1 or 2 years old, starting to learn what everything is, and like say we see a cup in front of us, we learn that that's a cup, and everything that looks like that cup is a cup from then on out, and we never see a cup for the first time ever again. We always filter it through that lens. And so the same thing with people. We see people, we meet a person for the first time, maybe they even remind us of somebody else, and we start to compare them to that person and put them in a box and all of this. And so we never truly see that person ever again with a new set of eyes, when really I think about my own self and my own evolution, and holy shit, how much have I changed since I was a kid? How much have I softened and evolved as a human being to now who I am? And I mean, I used to be, again, a complete asshole, like huge asshole. And I have to actually, I still to this day, I've embodied a lot of it. Like, I've embodied a lot of this love that I have for people and how I see the world, and how like, hey, I want to see you all through love. But on occasion, I have to rewrite a lot of things or rethink a lot of things before they come out of my mouth, because there are some things that I still have to learn to have more compassion about when I'm seeing people. And yeah, it's basically this idea that instead of seeing people through these judgments and through this lens, saying, well, is that true? Zooming out, and I love to do this, I do this with my thoughts and with my people and with everybody, zooming out and really looking at, like, where is that symptom coming from? Where is that symptom coming from? So if somebody, for example, hurts you or does something against you, I'm sure everybody has had a circumstance where someone deeply hurt them. And just go there right now, if you will, with me. And you can even drop your examples in the comments. I want to hear them, and I want to work through them with you. Somebody deeply, deeply, deeply hurts you. And instead of making that about you and seeing like all of the suffering that they're causing you, can you zoom out and pop out of this situation and look at it from 360 degrees and ask yourself, where might that pain be coming from? Because somebody who is hurting someone else is oftentimes, I would say 100% of the time, mimicking behavior that they learned or hurt that they learned and projecting it on you. So it has nothing to do with you. And really, when we respond, with the same thing, and I'm gonna hurt them back, or I'm gonna here's the person, here's you, and you're just gonna do this with each other. Nothing really eternal is happening. But if you can pop out and you can see it from the eyes of love, which would be like, here's these circumstances, but how can I find the compassion in this? How can I see this person as one intrinsically whole with some symptoms of fear? So really, for me, every time that somebody does something to me, which I don't try and take personally ever, and I'm a human, I do take it personally. It still does cause me anxiety if someone deeply hurts me or affects me in some way, but it takes me a lot less time to get back to peace and get back to compassion. And how can I see this through love and not through fear? I'm losing my thought. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get it back. I have a little bit of brain fog this morning. I feel a little tired. I've had a long 24 hours or so, and so I'm processing a lot of this, which is kind of where the subject came from, because it's been popping up a little bit in the people around me, so I've been working through it. But yeah, let me just relate this to even a bigger topic, because really, if we're going to love people, it's not enough to love people that were family and friends and all of that. Can we find compassion for even the harder people to love that the world would say is unlovable, or that we absolutely do not agree with politically? Or, I'm going to take this, and this is going to be controversial for some of you, but can we love the murderer and the rapist and the child molester and these people that the world has deemed unlovable through this way of seeing people? Can we zoom out enough that we see that the actions, the symptoms are really just coming from this place of fear? And if we all are really learning how to move through fear and into love, are we really all that different? I mean, I ask myself this a lot when I'm like, God, that person, holy shit, that person, I can't believe they did XYZ. And then I'm like, well, shit, if I was born in their body with their circumstances, with those chemical imbalances, with their family, with whatever circumstances they have, would I choose differently? And I cannot say without a shadow of a doubt that I would be able to do that, and I don't think anyone can. And so from that place, knowing that really at the heart of it all, we are not that different. We're not that different. And really our circumstances, I'm going to turn off the comments because you guys are writing great comments, but I'm losing my track this morning. But really, we're not all that different. And so when we start to see each other through that lens of like, well, goodness, like, we're all human and we're all experiencing some deep, life-changing shit at any given moment. It might look different, but really, it's all the same as a collective. I can love them. I can find love in my heart, and I feel sad, sort of, when I look at people who have experienced life, like in a different way, that like now the world hates them. On top of all the shit that they've experienced and done, now the world hates them. And if I can be the only one to show love, even if it's from afar, and I'm never going to meet that person, but I can see their story and be like, that is so hard. I can have the compassion in that moment, and I can send them love, whether or not they ever meet me, ever. I can send them love. And in that way, if we are all thinking that way all the time, if we all showed up that way as often as possible, even just walking down the street, if we did that on a daily basis, sending that kind of vibration out into the world, Can you imagine how much shit would shift? Could you imagine how much easier it would be to get along with each other? Could you imagine how much easier it would be to love somebody who doesn't agree with you politically? I mean, because right now, I mean, you think about this election and everyone was just rah, 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 and I'm just like, nothing is freaking happening. Like, nothing is happening. Nothing eternal is actually happening here. And, you know, I said to a friend the other day, I was like, how are you making a difference then? I was like, because I show up every day and I spread love as much as I can, and I'm not perfect, and I'm definitely not perfect. Like, definitely not perfect. But this is my intention every single day, is to show up for people and start to shift the way that people think and view the world and other people. And that's my job. I'm like, and I know that as a byproduct of that, the world shifts. I'm like, but what are you doing if you're sitting here complaining about XYZ and how the world is going to shit? What are you doing to make a shift? Get a plan. You're not powerless. This is my way to change the world, and some people change the world with money. Some people change the world with their influence. Some people change the world by going to work every single day and showing up to build the infrastructure of the world. How are you changing the world? This is my way. And I really do believe that if we can all zoom out and really see people for who they are, which is not much different than ourselves at the end of the day, that we can show love and find love for anybody in any circumstance, regardless of how much we disagree with them, regardless of how much they hurt us, regardless of any external circumstances and any symptom or any sort of fear. I really do believe that we can find common ground with every single human being on this planet. And by doing that, we're all connected, and we literally can heal everything. Okay. Let me see. Yes, Paul, I agree you can love everybody, and Adrian, you know exactly how I feel about this, my friend. Paul, I have 4 siblings, all are older, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I have a relationship with one oldest brother, and love is a two-way street. Can you love someone who only wants to hate you and criticize you? Some people are toxic. Did I answer your question? Did I answer your question, Paul? Because I really do. Yeah, and Mary, it's not a feeling, it's a choice, 100%. Paul, I hope I answered your question, because really, yes, you can, and that doesn't... Oh, sorry, I'm watching the screen. Oh, I'm back! Hi. No, I truly believe that yes, we can. Because when you start looking, and this is not to look down on people, let me get that straight as well. So we're not looking at people and being like, oh, poor person, they're living in fear, because holy shit, so are we, you know, like I am too. Like I notice fear symptoms all the time with myself, and really I'm just running a different program than anyone else. It's not that like I'm better off or I've done more work or I've evolved to a certain level. It's really just that I'm running a different program, and I've made a decision to shift to see the world and people differently, and that's all that it is. So yes, Paul, you absolutely can, and yes, people are toxic, and yes, you can love them from afar. And I do believe that sending them love and meditating on them and really, truly, someone just opened their window. Maybe they want to hear me preach right now. But no, you really can love people, anybody. And I'm not saying you need to be right there with them. I do believe that there is time to separate from them if you're causing them harm also. Because if you view them as toxic, probably being around them is not a good situation. Because really, it's probably just toxic between the two of you. I really also believe that owning your end of it is huge. Because I saw my brother as just fucking doing all this shit to me. And I like, when I looked at it from my mom's point of view, which was fascinating, she was like, you always hated him. And he just really looked up to you. And he wanted to be around you all the time. And when she said that to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm an asshole. Holy shit, I'm an asshole. From that moment when my mom said that, and I was so grateful for her saying that to me, I was like, I really love my brother. And wow, how much softer I got almost immediately when I realized that maybe the lens that I had been filtering my brother through was inaccurate all these years. And if I can see my brother now in this moment, in this time, with a new set of eyes, regardless of what happened yesterday, the day before, last year, or even just a second ago, if I can see him as new as possible right here in this moment, I can find the compassion and I can find the love in any given situation, no matter what the symptoms are, no matter what the fear looks like, no matter, like, because a lot of times I can see it now very clearly with people, and because I operate so much out of vulnerability and authenticity now, and I really try to get as vulnerable as possible, I can see when someone shifts into insecurity. And so then I can really love people. Like, when I start to see that, I mean, that shift, it's like, oh, I really love you right now. Like, I really, really love you. And that's exactly what they need. They don't need another person criticizing them. You know, they don't need another person fueling it and growing it, because it just, why grow the fear? And let me read Paul's comment. Okay. Paul says, Danielle, very complicated. My oldest sister is pure evil. She told me the day my father died that my gravy train was over. She's a horrible person. Where do you think that came from, Paul? Just based on what I've said. Where do you think that comes from? And where are the feelings coming from in you? Because really, these fights that we have with people, if they're not love, and love is the only thing that exists at the end of the day, because you're not taking this fight with you when you die, what is actually happening between the two of you of eternal significance? Nothing. That's the answer. Nothing is happening. And so it's two ego minds doing this, and really nothing eternal. Neither of your souls are even in the whole mix. Nothing eternal is happening. That's metaphysics and Course in Miracles. Like, I can't really get into the metaphysical situation without sounding like really woo-woo and out there. And maybe it's not the same, maybe it's not, we're not speaking the same language, so it might be a little bit of a barrier there, Paul. But if you want to know more about Course in Miracles, I would go, I think the easiest way, no, she has a soul. Everyone has a soul, Paul. Can you find yourself? So you're saying she's a clone of you. Can you find yourself in her? Can you see yourself in her? And I mean, really, when you can't love her, that's okay. Let me just also say this, because when you can't find the love for your sister or your brother or whoever, when you can't find the love, can you admit to yourself that I don't know how to love my sister, and may the one who doesn't know how to love be the first in line to be loved? That's MatCon. So that in and of itself, that practice of like, let me see how I can send more love to myself right here in this moment, because I have no idea how to love my sister. And that heals the whole thing. But it's a practice that you come back to it over and over and over again. May I be the first in line to be loved. Because that love, I mean, I walk down the street, I got to be honest, this is my practice, my meditation practice. I'll walk down the street if I'm having kind of a lower vibrational day and I feel kind of shitty. I will walk down the street and I will be like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love that tree, I love this day, I love this blue sky, I love, 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 love. And I might have a frown going into that. I might be having a horrible day. All these people might have done things to me. And the second that I start to shift into that energy and align myself with that high frequency vibration, nothing matters at that point. Nothing small and insignificant and ego matters at that point. It is all here in my heart. And I move right to my heart. And from that place, I mean, you can see when it lands on people and it makes a difference. Like, people don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, all of a sudden I've got a freaking smile like the size of Texas on my face. And like, people are like, what? They just like respond like this. And if I can give them a moment of like, I've done my job, you know? Okay, Adrian steps into mirror theory when you say that. So Paul, I'm gonna call you out, buddy. I've got to say you're just describing symptoms. You're describing symptoms, and I have compassion for what you're going through with your sister, completely. But this is very the energy around that. What you're describing is very like, she did this to me. And no, I wouldn't say her soul is an ugly black one. I would say her soul is beautiful. And the symptoms of what you're seeing from her are fear, and really it's fear. It's fear, and that's ego. So what you're seeing that you don't like in her is your ego actually responding to her ego, and you just don't like it. And that's okay. You're human. There's nothing wrong with being in this place, but knowing and starting to kind of soften and see her from a place of, shit, my ego doesn't like this, and her ego is, and my ego are doing this sort of shit all the time, and it doesn't feel good. Does that feel good in your body to hold that on? Because that energy that you're clenching onto has got to not feel that great. You know? You know? You know? Let me see if we can... Yeah. So, let me see. Lee Russ, what would you say to those who can't feel love or honestly don't know what it is? Most people that throw up barriers are hateful and toxic, haven't a clue what love is. You know, you start with yourself. It never comes from a place of, I wasn't able to see people this way, if this makes sense. This is going to make sense. I don't know why I always say that, but this is going to make sense. I didn't start seeing people this way until I started loving myself. And I showed up for myself every single day. And I started to realize the patterns that I had that affected people negatively, and I tried to leave as little damage everywhere that I went, and every word that I spoke, and every interaction I could, you know, because, and it started with my now ended marriage, but at the time we were dating, and I was such an asshole, forcing my expectations on him constantly, and I was just doing it to everybody. But like, you know, when you're in a relationship, that's a pretty easy place to start to do some work, you know. And I realized that was causing so much suffering in me, expecting things from him, that what happens when I stop doing that, and when I just allow him to be exactly as he is, and not expect all of these needs to be met from someone else, and start giving myself those things. And that's the tiny shift that I made that bled out into every single other thing, which evolved into this philosophy of how to see the world and how to see people. But yeah, I think you start with yourself. And Lee, if you're, let me see. I mean, you know, yeah, if you're, let me read your comment again. Yeah, if they don't know what love is and they can't receive love, then you give more love to yourself. It takes care of itself. Like, it takes care of itself. It really does. And I mean, that's been my experience. I really love people fiercely, and I have some relationships where people have pushed me away because they can't accept that love. Like, they don't know how to receive love because they do not love themselves. And really, I just keep showing up and being the example of what it looks like to love somebody unconditionally and to love myself unconditionally, and learning, even the deeper layers of self-love, because like, me sticking around in toxic things is not necessarily self-love, but me loving someone from afar and sending them love as much as I can. And when that energy aligns itself again, like when we meet again, then maybe I'll have a different experience, and maybe they will as well. It's, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Like, I'm talking a lot of metaphysics stuff right now. What's his name the other day? What's his name? Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's, like, crazy thing that he did at Fashion Show or Fashion Week or whatever. That's totally me every day. I'm like, but none of this is happening, guys. None of this is happening. Okay, so Paul, this is old stuff. I've told them both, and they have agreed that we are dead to each other. I simply do not acknowledge their existence. Okay. Okay. Do you have peace right now about that? Like, is that peace? Because it doesn't seem, like, it doesn't feel like peace to me, and I could be wrong. And I'm not calling you out. Like, I'm really not. I love working through this with people, so I hope you know that I'm so glad that you're sharing this stuff. I at the end of the day, a really simple, non-metaphysical question is, would you rather be right, or would you rather have peace? And it doesn't mean you have to even have a conversation with your family. It doesn't mean that. It just means that, can you soften that place that's taking energy from you so that you can find some love and compassion and not have a trigger. And I know it's old stuff, but old stuff sticks around for a long time. And I will say, as somebody who deals with energy blocks in the body, it shows up and it manifests as disease. And that's, and I'm not saying you're going to get sick. I'm not saying that. But, like, it blocks something. It blocks the energy lines in your body, and it shows up. And it is all connected. This is all connected. It's all connected. And so, for me and for my own health, like, I don't hold on to shit anymore. Like, I try as quickly as possible to resolve the energy, like that. So, there was a thought that I had when I was talking about energy blocks in the body. Yeah, okay, so here just to put it into complete scientific terms. If you are like engaging a muscle, or you're holding a muscle, or say, like, you're doing this all the time. Sorry, got your shoulders up to your ears because you're stressed out and you're not breathing and all of this stuff. Every single tense muscle in your body, every single one of them is holding oxygen that should be used for something else in the body. And so I am kind of equating this whole thing, when we hold a grudge and we hold this energy, we are wasting this precious energy that could be utilized for something else. That could be utilized for something else. It's taking space. So if you can soften and let go of it, then energetically, a lot of healing is going to happen. So, yeah. All right. Is your sister really sick? Ooh. Okay, well, Paul, are you okay with if something happens to her? Are you okay leaving it this way? I mean, and if you are, that's totally fine. But, I mean, these are things to think about, and I do think about that a lot, especially in my brother's circumstance where, things were unresolved with my dad, and the last conversation they had was, I fucking hate you, My brother doesn't, he still lives with that to this day, and he's healed a lot of it, and my dad obviously loves him very much and always has, and does not hold a thing against him, and I know my brother knows that, but that's really hard. When someone is gone, to still have that unresolved energy. So if there's a way that you can do it even from afar, you don't have to talk to her about it, but if you can resolve it, I would resolve it, because you just don't want to hold on to that. Why hold on to it? Why? Just saying. And Paul, I am a coach and a consultant, so I work with people constantly. So yeah, if you want to work through this with me, buddy, I am doing free sessions this month. We can get to it. We can get to it. So if she were to die, yes, you'd have regrets. So that's your answer. You don't want to live that way. You don't want to live that way. I love you too much to let you live that way. You don't want to. So if you can do whatever you can on your end, you don't need to talk to her. But do some work on your end to soften that and to love her and to see her with a new lens if you can. If you can take off the old lens of this is the shit that she said to me and I said to her and all of that stuff that doesn't make a difference and does not matter in the long run of life, if you can just see her through a different lens for a second, take that shit off, just find her humanity, find your common ground, and yeah, I absolutely know you can do this if you want to. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do if you don't want to do it, but I'm just saying, like, I don't believe it's a coincidence you brought it up. And also, I'm seeing you in New York in a little while, yeah? Lee is like being the biggest cheerleader. Do it, Paul. Do it, Paul. We're all on your side, Paul. Does anyone else have anything to say? I don't know if that was completely on subject, the whole thing, but I hope it was. Yeah. Oh, people, like, this is why I get really excited, by the way, because the end result of how you show up like this, which is just so fucking cool, is that you just love everybody. And isn't that so much easier than feeling like shit because you hate somebody or you don't understand them or whatever? Like, for me, oh my God, the love that I feel every single day walking outside my door for people. Like, every day I see people that no one else sees, that are like homeless people on the side of the road, and if I can just get down on my like hands and knees and be like, hi, and give them a hug, because it comes from this place of having seen everybody as they're no different than me. They're no different than me. Everyone's going through their shit. Everyone. And like, my pain that I'm experiencing is no different than anyone else's pain. Like, the shit that I've been through, they're going through shit too. And yeah, everybody has it. Everybody has it. So when we start seeing people this way, it's like, I'm just going to be selfish about it. It feels so good. So good. It just feels so good. Oh, I love this. Lee, I love you. Thank you. And Paul, you better reschedule. I love you too, my friend. All right. Before I keep going on and on and on, have a beautiful freaking Sunday. And seriously, I love you guys more than even words would be able to describe. And I just love you. Again, not to keep plugging my business, but I am working with people intensively. If this is something that calls to you, these are things that I do with people every day, all day. And I just, yeah, this is my life path. What can I say? What can I say? It brings me so much joy, and I love doing what I do. So I'll keep showing up here. Also tomorrow, Facebook Live with Nora and myself. It's going to be coming from Fahrenheit Yoga, but we'll share it on both of our personal pages. And I think we're going to be talking about deep presence and what that looks like and how to obtain that. So, yeah. And if you guys have any topics you want to talk about, put them below in the comments. All right. I love you.